What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon, and I think it's time we talk about this one. We talk about this topic. I've been kind of avoiding it, mostly because I was really busy with draft stuff, so I didn't want to talk about non-draft stuff unless it was really significant. But draft's over now, we got less to talk about, and beyond that, this is not going away. Like, we cannot shake the allegations. We cannot shake the Jamal Adams allegations. The Seahawks cannot get away from it. They are adjacent to Jamal Adams still. And it's coming from respectable, reputable sources. This is not just some random rumor account on X. No, this is a real report. This is something of value. This is something of meaning. You got Brady Henderson here talking about it. You've got Bob Condotta talking about it. There's reason to believe there's at least a little bit of smoke here, and if there's smoke, there's got to be some kind of fire. So Brady Henderson has this tweet here. The Seahawks have not closed the door on a reunion with Jamal Adams. They're going to discuss it internally now that the draft is over. He doesn't think it's likely, but he could be brought back to play weak side linebacker, which, I mean, that's the only way it makes any degree of sense at all. If you bring him back to play safety, it will be a complete disaster in this defense. Mike McDonald is less equipped to use, excuse me, a Jamal Adams level player or a type player in his defense than Carroll even was, I think. So that's the only way it makes any degree of sense. Then you've got this from Condotta. He basically says the same thing. He has an article in the Seattle Times about it. The player and team remain in contact. He also says that some other teams are showing interest in Adams. So there is a little bit of a market here. I think one of the teams that is showing interest was the Niners, which is really interesting. And there are a couple other teams as well. I'm guessing what is happening is that Jamal Adams, being a player who has been a very high profile player in this league, a very good player in this league, who has been elite at his position, who has signed massive contracts, who signed a record breaking safety contract a few years ago, is not yet mentally to the point where he accepts that he's a minimum level player, that he's a very low level player at this point. And the teams are just waiting for him to realize that. He's probably sitting there thinking, I'm not signing some veteran minimum deal. I'm not signing for a couple million. You got to give me some real money here to get me to play. And these other teams are like, no, we're not going to do that. You haven't been good enough lately to be worth more than this. And you're super injury prone. You got to prove you can beat that. So there's probably just a waiting game going on to where the teams won't give him what he wants. And eventually either he reduces his asking price or he retires. But we're getting it from multiple sources now. It's not going away. I thought maybe this would go away after the draft. If anything, it came back stronger. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's discuss the Jamal Adams thing. So I want to say this. I want to say, in all honesty, Jamal Adams played all right last year. He did. Jamal Adams did not play really badly last year until his final game, which was the Niners game. He played badly in that game. Other than that, I think overall, he was all right. He wasn't worth the money. He wasn't worth the assets we gave up in the trade. Not even close to any of that. No one is disputing that. That's very, very obvious. That's very, very clear. I don't think anybody is going to contest that. But he was not bad. He had one notably bad game last year. And he had that play against the Cowboys that had some people making fun of him. The thing was, the touchdown he gave up against the Cowboys was, I'm pretty sure, the first coverage touchdown he allowed on the season. And it was one of the first significant plays he gave up in coverage the whole year. His coverage numbers last year were actually really good. They were significantly better than a guy like a Julian Love. So I'm not saying that he was awful last year. He wasn't. I think people say it because it's a meme. I think people say it because somebody said it and then they say it and it makes other people say it. And it just kind of gets repeated over and over, even though it's not true. The issue with Adams was just he was taking up too much of the salary cap to be worth what he was doing. And, oh, by the way, he got hurt again. So I can get it on that level. But, guys, I know he's relatively young, but he is about as broken as a man can be for a guy his age. Yeah, he he came into the league the same year as Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett is playing elite football. He was in the same draft class as a guy like a Myles Garrett. He was in that 2017 draft. But guess what? You know who came out in a draft after Jamal Adams? Rashad Penny. And Rashad Penny's cooked too. Couldn't even get on the field last year. So age is just a number. His age being what it is does not change the fact that he is broken. And bringing him back just to get hurt again, how is that going to help anybody? How is that going to make anything better? I understand that in theory, you're probably looking at this roster and going, we could use a little bit of help at that position, but I really just want the Jamal Adams era to be over with. And as for him playing linebacker, which is the only way this makes sense, last I checked, Jamal Adams is, I think, 213 pounds. I think it's like 213 pounds. How is that going to work in the NFL? I know he's built differently, but at this point, can we even say that? Once upon a time, Jamal Adams was built differently from most guys his size. He could do things that very few other players in NFL history could do. I don't know if that's true anymore after the billion injuries he's had. He got hurt in 2020, missed, I think, 4 games, and then tried to play in the playoffs while injured. He missed the end of the season in 2021. He missed the whole season in 2022, and then he missed the end of the year in 2023. So there, I don't know what you think is going to happen if you put him at linebacker, a position where he's going to take even more physical abuse. He's going to be in traffic even more often. He's going to be taking contact. He's going to be taking on blockers. He's going to be taking on running backs even more. Right? Make it make some sense. I don't think you can. He would have to gain probably 15 pounds to make this work. And then what do you have? A guy playing at 15 pounds over his typical weight, probably. Now, maybe he weighs more than that, but you got to be at least 225, or else this feels like a very goofy conversation to have. So, I don't understand why this has become a thing. Again, I know that there's a thinness to our inside linebacker depth chart. We got the 2 starters we signed to 1-year deals. We got Knight in the draft, and then we got maybe Radigan, maybe Thomas. But you only need 1 more guy. You need 4 inside linebackers on your team. Would you rather give that spot to Jamal Adams, or would you give it to Drake Thomas, or would you give it to a UDFA, the Wyoming guy, Gibbs? I don't know. And this is all on top of the stuff he did at the end of his tenure, which turned a lot of people against him. Like, even the people who defend Jamal Adams' play on the field, and there are people who do. In fact, you could argue that I'm kind of one of them, because I don't think he played awful last year. I don't think that makes me a defender. But there are people out there who think he was playing really, really well last year. But even those people turned against him with the way he was behaving at the end of the year. And I don't know why you need to get involved in that. It's one thing if you're going to get a guy who has character problems of the type that Jamal Adams has, and you know the upside is that he's going to be elite, but what is the upside with Jamal Adams playing linebacker? He's a slightly better backup than John Radigan or Drake Thomas would be. Like, what is the upside of all this? So yeah, I'm hoping this goes away, and I wanted the Jamal Adams thing to work out, and believe me, I am not one of the people who felt some personal deep offense to the way Adams behaved at the end of the year last year. But at the same time, I understand that it's not okay, and the behavior was indicative of something with him that is a clear negative, and something that is not worth what he's offering. And it's one thing when, it was something where Frank Clark, I remember when we drafted Frank Clark in the first few years he was here, he did some things he really shouldn't have done. He got very defensive about some things that he had allegedly done in his past, and he came off in a bad way, but you stick with that a little bit and you are a little more accepting of that because he is a really good player. So him being kind of a little bit of a cad, I don't want to say a bad person, I don't think that, but a cad is something that you're willing to live with because the upshot of Frank Clark was really good. He was a double-digit sack guy here. But are you thinking you're getting all pro Jamal Adams back? You're not. You're just not. So let's get another linebacker in here if we need to, or let's just rock with what we have and hope one of these young guys with minimal salary and minimal commitment is going to be capable in that backup role. Let's not go back down this path. I'm sorry. I don't hate Jamal Adams. I don't hate what he brought here. I wish it had worked out better than it did, but let's go a different direction here. Let's not get back into this stuff. This might be, not that I have any hard confirmation of this might be what got Pete Carroll run out of here. A lot of people think that one of the reasons why Pete Carroll got fired is he went into that end of season meeting with Jody and was advocating to bring back Jamal Adams, advocating to bring back Quandre Diggs, advocating to bring back his guys, and trying to sell them on a vision of how this would work. And that was kind of the thing that broke it for ownership, and they decided to fire him because they just couldn't see eye to eye on that one. So part of the reason why you bring in the new regime is that you can say goodbye to somebody like a Jamal Adams. So I don't need to be saying hello to him again, I don't think. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Might be another video later today. Probably going to be a Mariners video, though. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, go Hawks.